We lived in the same house for years, but she told her fiancé I was never born. She's not family. She's just a mistake he made. Then I forced her to repeat those words in front of a judge. The day my stepmother kicked me out, she didn't even bother to lie about it. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're just a leftover from a dead man. I have my own life now." I was 16. I had just gotten home from school, sweaty and tired from walking a mile in the summer heat, when I saw my suitcase by the front door. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe we were going somewhere, maybe a trip. But when I stepped inside, there was nothing warm or familiar. The house was silent except for the dull hum of the air conditioner. My backpack slid off my shoulder and hit the floor with a soft thud. My stepmother, Glenda, appeared in the hallway wearing lipstick like she was going out. "Oh, good," she said. "You're here." She didn't smile. I stood there like an idiot, waiting for an explanation. "Where's Reese?" I asked. My little brother, well, half-brother technically, should have been home already. He's only 14, but has always been more mature than most adults in our house. "He's at a friend's," she said, brushing invisible lint off her dress. "And you're going somewhere too." My heart stopped. "Excuse me?" She walked past me, grabbed her purse from the counter, and tossed a small envelope onto the table. "There's a bus card in there and $200. That should get you somewhere for a while. You can crash with someone until you figure things out." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She didn't even flinch. "You can't be serious." "I am. I need space. You're 16, not a kid anymore. And frankly, you being here, it's holding me back." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She'd been cold ever since my dad died, but this was next level. "He left this house to both of us," I said, my voice shaking. "He left me in your care." Glenda rolled her eyes. "Your dad didn't leave anything, sweetheart. He died with debt and gave me responsibilities I didn't ask for. I've done my part." Done her part? For the past year, I'd been the one making dinner for Reese, helping him with homework, walking him to school when Glenda disappeared for the weekend. I was the one who kept him together when she screamed or slammed doors. "You're not even going to wait until I finish school?" I said what I said. I felt something twist in my chest, like betrayal, but deeper, colder, more final. "I'll talk to Reese," I whispered, trying to find something to hold on to. He wouldn't want this. That's when she really snapped. Her smile turned razor sharp. "Oh, honey," she said. "Reese already knows." He didn't argue. "He knows I need to move forward. You're the past." My breath caught in my throat. "He knew?" I think I expected her to say, "I'm bluffing," or "he was confused." But she just nodded and stepped toward the door. "You'll be fine. Kids like you always bounce back." "Kids like me?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the suitcase through a window, but my hands wouldn't move. I just stood there as she opened the door and gestured for me to leave. I picked up the suitcase, still hoping Reese would walk in and tell me it was all a misunderstanding, that he hadn't agreed to this, that he'd begged her not to do it. But he didn't. He didn't text, didn't call. Not even a single word that night. I slept in the bus station. And the whole time I kept thinking about that one moment, just a week ago, when Reese had fallen asleep on the couch watching a movie, head resting on my shoulder. Like we were still a team, still siblings. That image kept flashing in my mind over and over again. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I did the only thing I could think of. I called my Aunt Clara, my dad's sister. I barely knew her, but she had always sent birthday cards and wrote sweet notes that I secretly kept in a shoebox under my bed. She answered on the second ring. "Marin?" "Hi," I whispered. I don't know where to go." She didn't ask questions, didn't hesitate. "Where are you? I'm coming to get you." And she did. 40 minutes later, she pulled into the bus station in a beat-up Subaru and hugged me like someone who remembered what love was. "You're safe now," she said. "Come home." I wanted to believe her. But that night, lying on her pull-out couch staring at the ceiling fan clicking softly above me, all I could think about was how fast it all happened. How someone you love can look you in the eyes and say, "You're disposable." I thought that would be the worst part. But the real pain came the next morning. I had just finished brushing my teeth in Clara's small but cozy bathroom when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Reese. 2 words, "I'm sorry." And then another message followed. "There's something I need to tell you, but you have to promise you won't tell anyone, especially Glenda." My heart dropped. Whatever it was, I knew it wasn't going to be small. I sat on the edge of the couch, typing with trembling fingers. "Okay, I promise. What's going on?" His reply came with a voice memo. A soft click, followed by Reese whispering like he was hiding in a closet. "Glenda, she filed papers. She changed my guardianship to her fiancé. She says you don't exist anymore, that I'm not allowed to talk to you unless I want to lose everything." My breath caught. My fingers hovered over the screen as the voice memo continued. "I'm scared, Marin. I didn't know what to do." I sat frozen, the phone buzzing again with another voice note incoming. And I knew whatever I heard next would change everything. I stared at my phone, my thumb hovering over the new voice memo from Reese. It felt like a weight had settled on my chest, like the air itself had gotten too heavy to breathe. My hands were shaking as I pressed play. At first, all I could hear was Reese's breathing, ragged, uneven. Then his whisper, low and trembling. I heard her talking to someone on the phone last night. She said she's finalizing everything next week, that once the papers go through, I won't be allowed to see you anymore, that you're not family. She actually said the words, "Maren is nobody. I made sure she doesn't legally exist." I dropped the phone onto my lap, my vision blurred. I wasn't sure if it was from rage or grief, or the kind of betrayal that hits so deep, your body doesn't even know how to react. She doesn't legally exist. Those words echoed inside me like a siren, over and over. A rejection so complete, so calculated, it didn't even feel real. Clara walked in just then, holding 2 mugs of tea. She stopped when she saw my face. What happened? I didn't say anything, just handed her the phone. She listened silently, her lips pressed into a hard line. When it ended, she set the phone on the coffee table and sat beside me. "She's trying to erase you," Clara said. "Like you're some inconvenience she can just delete." "I knew she hated me," I whispered, "but I didn't think she'd go this far." "She can't get away with this," Clara said firmly. "Not if we fight back." "But how? I'm 16. She has custody. And now she's transferring Reese to some stranger who probably doesn't even know I exist." "I'm going to call a lawyer," Clara said. "Today. We'll find out what she filed and if she forged anything. If she touched your dad's will, I swear—" I blinked. "You think she forged something?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "She had motive. She had opportunity. And she's counting on you, not fighting back." It felt surreal. Less than 48 hours ago, I was just a girl who came home from school expecting a normal night. Now I was a girl without a home, without a legal identity, without a brother, apparently. But I wasn't alone anymore. Clara made calls. She pulled out old paperwork my dad had sent her before he passed, copies of his will, guardianship letters, even emails he'd written about me and Reese. She called someone named Ben, an old college friend who now worked in family law. By that afternoon, we had an appointment set for the next morning. But even with that glimmer of hope, my mind kept going back to Reese. He hadn't messaged again. I texted him, "Are you okay?" No response. "Where are you?" Still nothing. I hated the silence. He had risked a lot by sending me those voice notes. And now, I was terrified that Glenda had found out. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying our last real conversation. Weeks ago, sitting on the back porch eating popsicles, joking about how he'd probably grow taller than me before the summer ended. He'd laughed and leaned against me like he always did. He didn't know it would be one of the last times. The next morning, Clara drove us to the lawyer's office. Ben was in his late 40s, polite but no nonsense. He listened carefully as Clara laid everything out, what Glenda had done, what Reese had sent, and what Maren had experienced. Then he turned to me. "Maren, I need to ask something hard. Has Glenda ever signed anything in your name? Medical forms? School documents? Anything without your knowledge?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, a couple of times. She signed field trip forms. Once she filled out a FAFSA form for me using her email." "Perfect," he said grimly. "That's a pattern. We can argue fraudulent behavior. And if we can prove she misrepresented her custody status or interfered with legal guardianship, we might even get emergency protection filed." "But will it help Reese?" I asked. "He's still in that house." Ben hesitated. "That's trickier. He's not the one who was displaced. But if we can prove emotional abuse or coercion, there's a chance." I looked down at my hands. "I don't want to tear him away from his home," I said quietly. "I just want him to be safe. And I want him to know I didn't leave him." Clara put a hand on my shoulder. "He knows," she said softly. "He just doesn't know how to say it yet." Later that night, I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed again. It was another voice memo. "Reese." I pressed play with shaking hands. "She knows." 2 words. My stomach dropped. Then another message followed. "She went through my phone." She heard the recording. She's furious. She said she's sending me away for the summer. Somewhere I can't contact anyone. She says it's for my own good. My heart started pounding. Then a third message came through. This one was longer. "Maren, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for her to find out." She was yelling and crying and saying you poisoned me against her. She broke my phone. I'm using a school iPad to send this. I don't know when I'll be able to talk again, but listen. I leaned in, holding my breath. She has a document. It has your name crossed out. Like, actually crossed out. With a red line. She said she filed something with the court to declare you an unfit sibling influence. I don't even know if that's a real thing, But she kept saying you were dangerous, that you were trying to take me away from her. I dropped my toothbrush into the sink. An unfit sibling influence? Was that even legal? I sat on the edge of the bathtub, shaking. How far was she willing to go? Erase me from paper? Erase me from Reese's life? From my own father's legacy? But then Reese's final line played. Clara can help you. I believe that now. Just don't stop fighting. Please. My throat tightened. I opened the voice memo app to reply, but it was already marked undeliverable. His iPad must have been taken too. And that's when I realized this wasn't just Glenda trying to control us. This was a full-on erasure campaign. She wasn't just trying to remove me. She was trying to rewrite who we were, and she was almost succeeding, but not anymore. Because if she wanted a war, she was about to get one. After that last message from Reese, everything inside me shattered. The red line, the crossed-out name, the term unfit sibling influence. It wasn't just about being kicked out anymore. It wasn't about losing my room or being replaced by some random guy Glenda was dating. She wasn't just pushing me away. She was trying to erase me completely. By the time I told Aunt Clara, my hands were trembling so badly I couldn't even hold the phone. I just played the voice memo and stared at her as her face went pale. She's escalating, Clara said quietly. This isn't just about guardianship anymore. She's targeting your identity, your connection to Reese, your place in your father's legacy. She's making it legal, I whispered. She's using the system to erase me. I could barely get the words out. My throat felt raw, like I'd been screaming all night even though I hadn't said a word. Clara picked up the phone and made 3 calls in under 10 minutes. By that evening, we were back at Ben's office. This time, we weren't just exploring options. We were preparing for war. Ben laid out the steps. Emergency injunction, affidavits, testimonies, and something else, something that made my blood run cold. I've seen this before, he said. Not often, but some guardians, when they want total control, they isolate one sibling by painting them as dangerous, rebellious, or unstable. Courts eat that up unless we counter it with hard proof. And what happens if we don't? He looked me in the eye. Then the court might prohibit any contact between you and Reese until he turns 18. 18. That was nearly 4 years away. 4 years of silence. 4 years of pretending we weren't siblings. 4 years of Glenda whispering lies into his ears, shaping his memories, rewriting history. I couldn't let that happen. So I started writing. Everything. Every instance of neglect. Every scream. Every time Glenda slapped my hand away from Reese when I tried to comfort him. Every night she left us alone without dinner. Every morning I helped him get dressed because she was still asleep, hungover, or gone. I documented it all. Meanwhile, Clara tracked down old neighbors, teachers, even a school nurse who remembered seeing bruises on Reese's arm once and being told he'd fallen down the stairs. The evidence piled up, but so did the fear. What if it wasn't enough? What if Reese backed out? What if he folded under pressure? He was still just a kid. And Glenda, she was terrifying when she wanted to be. I didn't sleep the night before the hearing. I stared at the ceiling, imagining all the ways it could go wrong. Then, the morning of, something strange happened. A knock at Clara's door. I opened it, expecting maybe a delivery or one of Clara's friends. But it wasn't. It was him, Reese, standing there, alone. His eyes were wide, like he'd been running. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. He clutched a backpack like it was his last line of defense. Marin, he breathed. I can't do it anymore. I stepped aside. He walked in and collapsed on the couch, breathless. She went nuts last night, he said. Tore my room apart looking for any other phones or notes. She said if I even thought about testifying for you, she'd send me to live with her fiancé's brother in Nevada, a guy I've never even met. I sat down across from him, stunned. She said I was weak, he continued. Said you poisoned me. That I was too emotional, like Dad. That if I didn't cut you off, I'd never have a future. He looked at me then, and his voice cracked. But you're the only one who ever made me believe I had a future. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt a tear hit my wrist. We didn't speak for a while after that. Just sat there. Quiet. Rebuilding something with silence and eye contact. That afternoon, Reese testified on my behalf. He told the court everything. How Glenda had manipulated him, lied, how she'd changed legal documents behind his back. I thought that would be the high point. But the real twist came when the judge asked for clarification on something in the documentation Glenda had filed. Apparently, there was an addendum, a sealed statement. Glenda had gone to the court a week earlier and claimed, under oath, that I had physically harmed Reese, that I had thrown things, screamed at him, and even locked him out of the house once during winter. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just a smear campaign. It was perjury. A lie so bold and cruel, I couldn't even wrap my mind around it. But then Reese stood up again. He looked the judge dead in the eye and said, "None of that ever happened. She made it up." The courtroom went silent. Glenda, who had been sitting smugly up until that point, turned ghostly pale. She didn't speak again for the rest of the hearing. By the end of it, the judge issued a temporary restraining order against her, not me. Reese was allowed to stay with Clara, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt seen. I wish I could say that fixed everything, that the damage just went away. But the truth is, when someone tries to rewrite your story, it leaves scars. Deep ones. Even now, I sometimes wake up in a cold sweat, thinking I hear her voice down the hall. I still check over my shoulder when I walk home from school. I still flinch when I hear certain phrases. But I'm healing. Slowly. And if you're reading this, and someone tried to convince you that you were too much, not enough, or better off erased, I see you. I know that kind of pain. The kind that doesn't bruise your skin but your identity. The kind that makes you question whether your memories were ever real. You're not alone. We're not broken. We're just rewriting our story ourselves now, the way it should have always been told. I don't think I ever really believed I could win. Not when I was sleeping on Aunt Clara's pull-out couch. Not when my name was literally crossed out in court paperwork. Not even when Reese showed up on my doorstep terrified and broken. But something shifted after the hearing. After Reese told the judge the truth. I felt it in my chest, like a pilot light flickering back to life. I was still scared, yeah. But I wasn't powerless anymore. And for the first time since Glenda threw me out, she was the one on defense. The judge ordered a follow-up hearing to determine if her full guardianship over Reese should be revoked permanently. We had 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, Clara and I built a case so airtight, Glenda couldn't wiggle through it if she were made of smoke. Clara found emails from Glenda's ex-boyfriend, the one before this new fiancé, who wrote to a family mediator 2 years ago about Glenda screaming at Reese for talking to his dead dad through the closet door. Yeah, that was a thing. We found a neighbor who had documented nights when Reese wandered outside barefoot after being locked out of the house. We even tracked down Reese's middle school counselor, who confirmed that twice, Glenda missed meetings about Reese's behavioral changes and refused to let him attend therapy because, quote, therapy makes weak men weaker. But what really turned the tide was the video. It was Reese again. One night, a few days before the next hearing, he pulled me into Clara's guest room and said, I need to show you something. He took out an old Nintendo DS. I didn't understand at first until he opened the photo gallery and played a file. The screen flickered. Then I heard it. Glenda's voice, sharp and venomous. I don't care what Marin told you. She's gone. She's dead to me. The only reason she was ever here was because your father was too soft to throw her out. The video was grainy, but you could see her pacing the living room, wine glass in hand, while Reese, off camera, stayed completely silent. Then she said it. If she comes back, I'll make sure the police know she tried to hurt me. That girl doesn't exist anymore. She never did. I nearly dropped the DS. She didn't know I left it recording, Reese said. It was the night after she tore up my room. I looked at him, stunned. You've been protecting me? This whole time? He shrugged, eyes glossy. You protected me first. The day of the final hearing, I didn't feel weak anymore. I wore a black blazer Clara let me borrow. I tied my hair back like armor. And when Glenda walked in, pretending she was the concerned, exhausted guardian, I didn't flinch. Neither did Reese. The courtroom was quiet except for the ticking of the old wall clock. The judge looked tired but focused. Then came the part I'd been waiting for. Ben stood up and said, Your Honor, we'd like to submit a piece of visual evidence. He connected the DS to a projector screen, and before Glenda could even react, her voice was echoing through the courtroom. She's gone. She's dead to me. That girl doesn't exist anymore. Every head turned. Glenda's eyes went wide. She tried to cut in, saying it was taken out of context, but the judge held up a hand. Ms. Glenda, were you aware you were being recorded? No, but were those your words? Yes or no? Glenda's face twisted. Yes. Then the judge asked the final question. Do you consider Marin to be part of your family? Silence. A long, awful silence. Then in front of everyone, Glenda said, No, I never have. And that's when I realized I won. Not just the case, but the truth. In front of people, in front of Reese, in front of the system she'd used to erase me. The judge ruled that full guardianship would be transferred to Clara. Glenda was barred from contacting either of us without court supervision. She tried to argue, tried to cry, but it didn't work this time. As we were packing up, Reese turned to me and said something I'll never forget. You know what the wildest part is? Even now, I feel kind of bad for her. I looked at him. Why? Because she lost everything trying to destroy the one person who never even hated her back. It hit me like a punch to the chest. I didn't hate her, not really. I pitied her. And yet, when we walked out of that courthouse, something still didn't sit right. Something I couldn't shake until we got home. Clara was unlocking the front door when her phone buzzed. She read the message, blinked, then handed me the screen. It was from Glenda's fiancé, a man I'd never met, and the message read, I didn't know she had a daughter. My breath caught. What? I didn't know she had a daughter. Clara reread it, then opened the attached screenshot. It was a Facebook post. Glenda had posted a family photo just a week ago, smiling, with Reese and her fiancé. The caption? Can't wait to make Reese my official only child. No mention of me, not even a lie, just a complete omission. She hadn't just tried to remove me from legal documents, she'd built an entire life narrative where I never even existed. And it worked. Her fiancé hadn't even known about me. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just trying to erase me from her life, she was trying to erase me from history. That was the twist. Not the hearing, not the courtroom, the real betrayal. She told everyone who came after me that I never existed at all. And I'm still trying to process that, because it's one thing to lose love, another to lose your name. But losing your story, having it scrubbed from existence, like 2 hours later, we sat in a smaller courtroom, this time for the civil suit. The judge reviewed the evidence of document falsification, identity suppression, and the emotional damages she inflicted on me. When the judgment was handed down, I didn't even blink. Glenda was ordered to pay damages. She would lose the house my father left behind, his name still on the deed, which Clara had preserved like a guardian angel. And her name? Well, she could keep that. But it came attached now to a permanent court record and a community that knew exactly who she was and what she'd done. In less than 6 months, she'd gone from powerful single mother with a new life to persona non grata in her entire circle. But the real justice? It didn't come from the courtroom. It came a week later when Reese got an envelope in the mail. It was from Glenda. No return address. Just his name in careful cursive handwriting. Inside was a folded note and a photo. The note said, "I'm sorry for everything. I did what I thought was best. But you chose her. You chose the past. Goodbye." And the photo? It was a picture of us. Me and Reese. Sitting on the couch when we were little, both of us wearing superhero capes, mouths covered in chocolate ice cream, his head resting on my shoulder. There was a tear through the middle, right through my face. Reese didn't say anything. He just handed it to me and walked to his room. And I stood there, holding the torn photo in my hand, realizing that was the last move she had. She couldn't control the courts, she couldn't control Reese, and she definitely couldn't control me. So she tried to send one final message. You don't exist in my story. But she didn't understand. Her story doesn't matter anymore, because mine kept going. Weeks passed. Reese started therapy. I started college applications. Aunt Clara began painting again, filling the walls with color where silence used to live. One night, I walked past Reese's room and heard music playing. He was humming along, peacefully, off-key, like a kid who finally felt safe. I sat outside his door for a while, just listening. And I thought back to everything we survived. Being cut out, being gaslit, being treated like something shameful. And somehow, we'd found our way back to each other. Not because we forgave blindly, but because we chose truth. We chose love, even when it hurt. I don't think Glenda will ever understand that kind of love. Because love doesn't erase, it remembers, it rebuilds. And that's why she lost. Not because she got caught, not because the judge ruled in our favor, but because she lost the only thing she couldn't replace. Us. Sometimes the real justice doesn't come with a gavel. It comes in quiet moments when no one is watching, and you realize you're finally free. And that's what I learned. Closure isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your truth in a world that tried to bury it. If you've ever been silenced or erased, I hope you'll share your story too. Not just for justice, but for healing. And if you've made it this far, thank you for listening, truly. Feel free to drop your own experience in the comments. I'll be there, reading every word. And if this resonated with you, I hope you'll stick around for more stories like this. We're not alone. We never were.